Are you a wealth architect? That's somebody who wants to grow in all areas of life, not only financially, but mentally, physically, and spiritually. This is exactly what we're doing every single week on this show. I'm Emilio Despirito, your host of the Wealth Architect podcast, each and every week here. Wherever you're tuning in, we're glad you're here. We hope that this episode inspires you, motivates you to do something big, and maybe even blows your mind. Make sure you comment and interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. Let's get started. If you're a business owner, over time, I'm sure there's been situations where you've walked in and you've solved a problem and you sent your invoice in, your commission payment, whatever was due, and people dropped their jaws and said, What am I paying for? You know, if anybody ever questions your value or your compensation, because this happens all the time to us real estate advisors, happens all the time to us business owners, it brings me back to the story about the mechanic who fixed an engine on a ship with a simple tap, right? So here's the deal, right? The ship engineers, the ship's mechanics, the people all on the ship that should have and could have fixed this engine problem, they didn't know how. So they call in this mechanic, this guru, who comes in, pokes around the engine room, and all of a sudden takes out a small hammer and taps on the engine, and the ship starts up, right? So he wasn't paid for the hammer and for the tap and the time. He was paid for the experience and the knowledge and wisdom that he had in order to figure out exactly what to do and how to do it. And you can equate everything in business or to real estate into just that. So anytime people are questioning your ability, your authority, your value, I want you to think about that story, share that story with them, and understand that what you're doing is highly specialized and valuable. Hey, a special thank you to our sponsor, Annie Mac Home Mortgage, whose Cash to Keys product is disrupting the industry. Sick and tired of finding the perfect home, not having your offer selected? I got to tell you, it happens all the time. With Cash to Keys, Annie Mac gives sellers a cash guarantee for each of their buyers' offers. Stop bidding and hoping. Instead, bid with Annie Mac and bid with confidence. Don't just bid, but win. Annie Mac Mortgage. When you're buying real estate, you need somebody that understands the ins and outs of the legal ends. It's so important to have the right attorney working for you. You also need a bulldog. Let me tell you something. The first time I sat in a conference room with this lady, Melissa Delana of Delana Law, I immediately knew she owned the room. You need an attorney that owns the room, that can solve problems and make things happen when everybody else can't. You want to hire Delana Law in Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Rhode Island. Delana Law delivers every single time. They're going to help you out with all of your real estate needs. It's delanalaw.com. You got to check them out. Hey, welcome to the Wealth Architect podcast. Today on the Wealth Architect, we're honored to welcome someone whose impact reaches far beyond the football field. He's a three-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, a Rhode Island native, cancer survivor, philanthropist, and the founder of an incredible Joe Andruzzi Foundation, Joe Andruzzi. Joe spent over a decade in the NFL protecting quarterbacks and helping build one of the greatest dynasties ever in football. But perhaps his most meaningful work has come after football. Through the Joe Andruzzi Foundation, Joe and his family have helped thousands of cancer patients and caregivers facing what they call financial toxicity, the hidden financial burden that often comes alongside a cancer diagnosis. Today, we're talking about resilience, leadership, purpose, family, community, and what it truly means to show up for people when they need it most. Joe, thank you for joining us on the Wealth Architect podcast.
Well,
It's
thank you
good
for
to have
having
you,
me.
Joe. You're
Thanks.
welcome.
It's good to be here and honored. And just one correction there. I'm Staten Island, New York native, not a Rhode Island native. So,
Man, we were trying to claim you,
yeah,
Joe.
I know you
We
were. I
were
was. I should have been living there years ago, and my kids went to school there. Would always be in Rhode Island, but we didn't end up moving there, and now I'm still in Mass right now, and we still have a younger son that's going to the school systems out there. So We're busy, busy, busy.
That's good. Well, all right. So a Staten Island native, not a Rhode Island native. So Joe,
Mm.
you've already won championships on the field, but what you and your family are building through this foundation may be impacting lives on an even greater level. And for the listeners that want to learn more and support this mission, I'm going to say the website a couple times, but you can visit the Joe Andruzzi Foundation. Just type it into Google, you're going to find it.
Joe Andruzzi Foundation.org.
Okay, so
Yeah,
joeandruzzifoundation.org. Okay, good to know.
yeah.
So make sure you check that website out there, folks. So Joe, a lot of people know you as a Super Bowl champion and a former Patriot, but the creation of the Joe Andruzzi Foundation came from something more personal. Was there a specific moment during your own cancer journey where you realized that beyond the physical and emotional battle, families are also quietly facing financial one as well? And is this foundation, did you know then that this foundation needed to exist? And how did that experience ultimately shape the mission and heart behind what JAF has become today?
So to be honest and try and not to give you the long story, but uh, playing days, my wife and I started a fund in honor of a young boy who had brain cancer.
Hmm.
So connection with cancer was started in early 2001. Then just kept on going, and I was myself not feeling good. And then in 2007, I was diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of cancer called Burkitt's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that had to be, ac- activated pretty fast. I was, tested a week later. I was on a plane to Boston, met my doctor, and it was stage 4, and I had to start chemo the very next day.
Man.
So the summer of '07 that was, and it's a bit of a blur. But I owe it all to my wife, Jen, and she turned around and she had a lot of time. She spent at least 90% of her time up at the hospital with me, and the rest of the time was, taking care of our 4 kids at the time. We now have 5, but she tells people you don't think, you just do, and that's the motive. A lot of caretakers take because you just got to go with the flow and keep doing what you're doing to care for your loved ones. And she did that. And she sat by my bedside and, started thinking about, different ways and how we can just not raise money and donate it to, one doctor and one area. We wanted to help on a overall atmosphere. Well, she, came up with the foundation. She came up with the idea and researching that time and sitting by my bedside and starting out and realizing that, you know, we were fortunate enough that I played in the NFL for 10 years, got paid well for it. And looking around that hospital, I spent 50 plus days in that hospital. And you see every walk of life coming in that hospital. And some patients, living paycheck to paycheck and worrying about how they're going to keep their home. And then you learn that 50% of cancer patients become bankrupt after a cancer battle. So to me, that's, heart
Wow.
wrenching. And, yeah, so my wife had started it up. And, to tell you the truth, I had a big battle of depression, anxiety, and I didn't want anything to do with cancer at the time. And as she
Hmm.
started it up, turned around and we received a phone call from a mom in Maine who her son was just diagnosed with the same cancer. So she just asked me to give him a call. I called him up and still talk to him to this day. And he beat his cancer, and he's now a
Wow.
pediatrician up in New Hampshire.
Wow.
And just amazing
Yes.
story, amazing kid, family. But that phone call turned that switch in my mind, and said we can do a lot of good with this. You could take my 3 Super Bowl rings, parlay that with my I didn't get a ring, but my survivorship, and parlay it together and raise funds to help patients with those the little things, those home end bills you forget about. And we don't
Yeah.
help with the medical because medical could be put on payment plans. So we'll step
Hmm.
in and we'll pay the mortgage, rent, and utilities. And our 18 years later, we evolved into food security. We give rides. We help with other things like if they needed a wheelchair ramp, and there's many areas where we turn around and we try and help in any which way we can. And if not us, we also have what's called Unicorn. It's a website through the foundation that it's
Hmm.
basically a research guide, a guide for cancer patients that say they're coming into town, or they need something, they need place to stay, or this and that, or they need funding, or even if you don't live in the New England area and you live in Midwest, we're pulling together a multitude of information, and that was my wife Jen's baby is JF
Hmm.
Unicorn. So it's one of those things where having that guide help you, because I was in Cleveland at the time and we didn't have a guide. We had connections. We called the doctor that we just donated $500,000 to for brain cancer research from my own health, and
Hmm.
flew out the next day and met with my lymphoma doctor. So it was a whirlwind, and to be able to do that from the connections we made was a blessing. And I truly believe that God or somebody at Buddha or somebody out there, they work in funny ways. And,
Yeah.
we had many things that fell into place for us, which were you don't realize how things happen, but things do happen for a reason. And
Hmm.
spent the next 50 plus days in the hospital in 2007 and got back out. And since we started the foundation May 2008, actually came back on my wife's birthday. It was dated that, it was her birthday, and we were able to start her up. And now, knowing how many people we've helped and how much money we've raised and given out, it's just amazing. And for me, being the face of it, and the kind of like the mascot they used to call me, and out there, and whether if I'm on a golf course and somebody came up to me at a gas station, tap me on the shoulder and be like, "Are you Joe?" And you know, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a Joe, but which Joe you looking for? So joke around a little bit, and and have tears in their eyes just to say thank you, because I
Wow.
might have helped them or their family or friend. And it's just amazing part that I can share that story with my staff, especially my wife,
Hmm.
board, and all our constituents that help raise those funds and help us pay it forward. And it's really amazing, and we're trying to do more and more of that.
It's amazing, Joe. I appreciate you sharing that story with us. And if you're just tuning in right now, we are on a call with Joe Andruzzi, the inspiration behind the Andruzzi Foundation. He's a three-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, suffered through a rare form of cancer, beat it ultimately, and through his wife and his experiences, gained some inspiration to start the Joe Andruzzi Foundation, which is just a wonderful cause. And I strongly suggest, if you're tuning in, you're hearing about this for the first time, or you heard about it before, you go ahead and check that website out. We're going to talk about ways you can help out, but I've got more questions for this gentleman. But Joe, when you were laying there in the hospital, right, and you were going through your anxiety and your depression, right? I've heard before that, never mind the sickness, right? Never mind the cancer for a second. I've heard before that when you have athletes that have achieved monumental achievements like winning the Super Bowl, and that are like constantly doing these high performing things and constantly out there in the spotlight, and all of that amazing like attention, and all of those things happen when that kind of shuts off. I heard that that can also impact people's psyche. Do you find that players go through that? And do you think you were feeling some of that, or was the depression and anxiety more surrounded around the sickness, or more surrounded around being separated from your family, or what was it?
The second part of that, I mean, Football, of course, I was forced to retire overnight, so I didn't retire
Yeah.
the same as many other guys, and some guys have to be retired because nobody picks them up, or they get cut from multiple teams and stuff like that. But for me, I was just released from the Browns, about to take a visit to a couple different teams, talking to my agent. Basically, I was told I had cancer and didn't know the exact type at that moment. So I was seeing a doctor at the Cleveland Clinic and trying to figure this out. And, through our connections in Boston, we
Hmm.
reached out to the doctor that we know and, able to meet up with a doctor out there that wrote one of the protocols for the type of cancer I had. So, it worked out for us, but many others out there that, we turned around and, just try to piece it together and
Yeah.
understand that, life comes at you fast,
Yeah.
and you gotta keep living every day. And, you know, somebody once told me without bad luck, you have no luck at all. I have no luck at all.
Right.
And,
Right.
between my personal family and, growing up in New York City and my three brothers, New York City firemen, and father was a police officer for years and retired at the time. But, I almost lost one of my brothers in 9/11.
Hmm.
Was running out of Tower One when it was falling behind him. He was in that cloud of smoke, following him down the
Oh,
street. But,
man.
from what he told me after that, and I'm sure he was told, is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And he told me that then. He told me that after my cancer battle, and had told me that after the Boston bombings, where my wife and I were right there. And, it's the words I try and live by. And, I sometimes, joke around because for me, laughter is that best medicine. And
Yeah.
smiling every day, I can joke here, joke there, because those jokes and that laughter releases those endorphins that helps you heal. And I can
Oh, that's
remember going
great.
home and being bald and sick, and my doctor let me go home because he said, you get better at home, you don't get better in the
Yep.
hospital. And when my numbers were good enough, he let me go home knowing I was coming back maybe 24 hours later with a 104 temperature. But I would go home. My daughter, who's now 26, so she's about 8 years old, 7, 8 years old, and she would hide behind my wife's leg, her mom,
Hmm.
and start laughing because she thought it was hysterical that dad was bald. And we had a great big belly laugh, and that thing, that's particular of what you go through with cancer. I mean, you have your ups and downs, but you try and have more ups than downs.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what? There's nothing better than children and they're pure innocence. And when they say
Yeah.
stuff like that, I can imagine that's funny and comical and heartwarming all rolled into one.
And
I love
you can
that.
do
Thank you.
nothing, but you can't be mad. You gotta just laugh with them, and that's what I did because I thought it was funny that I was bald too, and I now shave my head for cancer patients and cancer funds every now and then. It's hair grows
Yeah.
back, and
Yeah.
I recently did it for Branded Communications. They have a shaving for saving event, which has been going on for many years, and very philanthropic company with Rob Hale at the helm there. But knowing him and what he does, and he doesn't want recognitions from anything he does. He loves doing it. He loves paying it forward, and to be able
Hmm.
to go there and shave my head, it's that's easy for me. But
Yeah,
knowing that I gotta make my FaceTime call to my daughter and show her my bald head, and she just giggles again. Still to
yeah.
this day.
I love that. It's almost like you get to tap into your inner child when there's other children around, and that's such an amazing, piece of advice there. If somebody is sick, or you're just in a spot and you have some children you can see that you're related to, I mean, that'll bring you a ton of joy.
Even my wife, when I was sick in the hospital, I remember her. a couple of former teammates of mine, asked her, they're going to come up and on the day off when I was sick. And they asked her, what can they bring me? What could they bring me? And I remember her telling the guys to, bring them, a joke book or some type of board game. And, I remember,
Mm.
the joke book. And of course, she believed in, that laughter part of it. And, it's one of those things that sometimes goes off to the side. It's those, that's what foundation's all about. It's the little things that count.
Do you have a favorite comedian?
My favorite of all time was my family, Ronnie Dangerfield. We
Oh
saw him
yeah.
live with my grandmother, but also John Panette was another guy who just passed. And a couple of years ago, I had tickets to go see him, and he unfortunately passed away. He was a big guy
Mhm.
that would talk about food and what he did, and
Mhm.
it's just hysterical on how he portrayed that aspect of being a big guy and loved eating.
Yeah.
But
Well, we're also Italians too, so we we love to
yes,
eat, right?
well, like I'm going to be seeing Bill Burr in
Oh,
a
he's
month, so
amazing.
he's
Yeah.
he's hysterical. So
He constantly, man, just pushes and pushes and pushes. And, I think people love him so much because his delivery is just unbelievable. Every time I listen to him, I crack up. I don't know. He's
yeah.
amazing. I'm glad you mentioned him. The Joe Andruzzi Foundation often talks about financial toxicity. What does that really look for a patient or a caregiver in the middle of treatment, Joe?
So you're going through treatment and you're not thinking about, your mortgage and rent and utilities. So,
Yeah.
sometimes it's those things that, catch you off guard and all of a sudden you get a cutoff notice or something like that. And so we now, started with my wife and I out of the house. And now we have 14 people on staff, and we have a whole part of the staff that just works with the social workers for the social workers in the hospitals are the ones that cut our job in half.
Mhm.
They have a way, they know how to get into our back office and to help the patient, and they know the patients that are in need. In order to get that patient funds, they'll fill out the application, and my staff will review it, and 90% of the time it's a yes. We don't like to say no. And whether it's a paying a bill off or sending a gift card to a grocery store or giving somebody a ride or a multitude of things, they're going to
Mhm.
receive something. And usually that small part that is a no or rejected is usually like a doctor's signature or sign off on something or something wasn't filled out right. So
Mhm.
we we love saying yes, and we love helping those in need.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, we all always hear about the physical battle with cancer, but not enough about the emotional and financial strain on families. Like, what are some realities that people may not see or that we didn't discuss yet?
I kind of touched base on it when I told my story. Is that I know
Yeah.
when I speak to patients personally, I visit hospitals, I visit patients at their homes and meet up with patients. It's those little things you don't ever talk about. The
Yeah.
Nobody talks about the caregivers. My wife can definitely talk more about it, but without her, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. She kicked me in
Yeah.
my ass and threw me on a plane at 7 a.m. out of Cleveland. And we met my doctor right off the plane at 11 a.m. And he told me, you're stage 4 Burkitt's lymphoma, and we're starting chemo tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. And that's how fast it happened. And that was a week and a
Wow.
half after being told I had cancer. So, being told stage 4, had married, had 4 kids, and you don't know what the next steps are. You don't know the future, and there's plenty of times where I thought I was on my deathbed, and plenty of times where I didn't think I was going to make it out of the hospital. And I don't remember a lot of those times, but I was told that I told people different stuff. But to be able to turn around and tell people that you know Like there's I have a port scar here on my chest here,
Hmm.
somewhere over here. It wasn't from my doctor. It was from a nurse. And I praise the nurses day in and day out. Doctors know the cancer, they know the treatment, they know what to do. But
Hmm.
when I was starting chemo, they've had it one IV in my one arm, and the other arm I had the chemo going in. And, you know, one of the nurses came in, you should think about getting a PICC line or a port. And I had young kids at the time, so I didn't, when I went home, I didn't want them seeing wires come out of dad. So
Hmm.
for me, I chose to go to port, which was the best decision I made. It made things much easier. So yeah, I'll tell people that. And when I visit kids, I'm almost 20 years out of football, and these young kids who have cancer, they don't know me from anything. They just look at
Yeah.
me, and I show them a picture of me, bald in the hospital. Kids look at me, and I show them my port scar, and their eyes light up like this. Holy cow! He has the same thing as me.
Yeah. The relatability.
It's one of those that, yes, the relatability, the connections made. And I'm just trying to reiterate and say, look at me, I got better. You keep fighting every day and
Hmm.
keep smiling. Don't let don't let it get you down. It's a negative, but you can have your good days and bad days, and you want to have more good days. So just to tell
Yeah.
people to keep moving forward. And one of those things which I mentioned earlier was when I ended chemo. I had an abundance of chemo, rare cancer, no hair on my body. I didn't have eyelashes. I didn't have eyebrows. I didn't have, no facial hair, nothing, no hair on the head. And I broke out in rashes, which comes out every now and then. And,
Still.
it was, but then, but still to this day, well, it's like a
Wow.
skin irritation. You see the chemo on the outside. That's what, you can see what it does to you. Don't
Yeah.
forget, this stuff goes in your body too. So it's
Yeah. It's
affecting your
toxic.
organs, your body, and everything. It's very toxic, and it goes into your brain. And
Yeah.
I had a huge battle with depression, anxiety. I didn't want to leave my house after I went home, and I didn't want my wife to leave. It was pretty scary at times, and I just had a battle, get out of that funk. A little by little was it, take my kids to the bus stop, you know, and then come home, and then I go a little further, and then I started
Yeah.
going back to the gym. So each day, each week, a little more, and trying to get out of that, and broke out, and really broke out when we started the foundation, and were able to meet those other patients and tell my story and tell them that they have time and they can keep battling every day. And bottom line is cancer sucks, but
Yeah.
it's how you face it. And, face it head on, keep smiling, love meeting patients that smile and joke and live life to the fullest. And that's the way to go through it. And I tried, although I was knocked down a lot and slept a lot. But it was tough. But being a survivor is truly one of the most rewarding things I can ever do. Like I say, somebody told me multiple times, multiple people loved what you did as a player,
Mhm.
but love what you do more nowadays with the foundation
Amen.
than anything. So it's truly one of the most rewarding things I can hear.
Joe, one of the things that I hear when you're speaking is, that you had purpose, you found purpose, and you found purpose through your family, you found purpose through helping others, you found purpose through going back to the gym, you found purpose to walking to the bus stop, and you found purpose in all of those things. So, I think that that's really, to me, that is totally like one of the things that I'm getting from this is if you're in a bad situation, find that purpose, find whatever it is, because there's always somebody, even if you don't have anyone around you, there's always someone somewhere that you could help, that you could benefit, that your story can help shape lives and give inspiration as you have been. And I think that's just such an amazing thing. And, you know, if we have somebody that's just hearing about the Joe Andruzzi Foundation for the first time today, what is one thing you'd want them to understand about the impact that their support can make?
Well, with anybody's support, we pay it forward and help those in need. And you can keep people in their homes. You can keep the heat on. You can keep their car running. You can put
Yeah.
food on the table. 'Cause that this day and age, that has been truly, a big part of the foundation because of our economy, and it
Hmm.
has been going well. And since COVID, when we started up the food security, we give gift cards to your surrounding grocery stores. And 3 years, we hit $1 million of donations, which was super
Hmm.
fast. And I think we might even go to past that now, way past that. And just knowing that a little gift card to, people shouldn't have to choose between putting food on their table, especially parents and loved ones, or buying medicine to get better, or to have your children get better. So to know that a foundation, people are out there to help, pay it forward and help those in need. If I have to spread the word, I'll spread it everywhere because, like you said, you want to take that negative and you want to flip a switch, flip that light switch, put it back up and make it a positive. And, the little things that, light up and, spread those smiles and help you heal when the people receive that, whether
Hmm.
it's a gift card or a payment. I remember one person writing to us, it was a loved one, and saying how it was the silver lining. My wife, and the end is why, yeah, my wife's healing process when we received a check from the foundation. And that gives me chills to even talk about right now. I mean, it always does because it's great. It's a great feeling. It's a great thing that we love doing, and we want to
Yeah.
keep on doing that because, you know, COVID was here. It, stayed for a while, but guess what? Cancer has been here. It's still here. But the
Hmm.
best thing about cancer right now is, knowing doctors and the research and everything that they're breaking it down and they're finding more and more cures for certain cancers and trying to find the best way to go about it without somebody figuring out that I had a rare form called Burkitt's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's probably Dr. Burkitt that found it. And,
Hmm.
40 years ago, it was non-Hodgkin's and Hodgkin's. Now there's 20, 30 types of each. So I'm lucky enough that they figured that out and was able to treat me for it. But, others weren't so lucky. But,
Yeah.
more and more people are surviving these days
Hmm.
from cancer. The types
There.
sometimes suck. Yes, I just lost my mom to liver and
Oh,
colon
sorry to hear that.
cancer, and it wasn't easy because you hate the word cancer, but
Yeah.
she battled and she fought hard, but unfortunately she was tired and went to go be with her loved ones.
That's sad. I'm so sorry, Joe. And you know, I know that there's people out there right now that are listening to this that may be either battling cancer or they may be a caregiver. What is a message that you want to leave them with?
Well, if you're a patient or you have cancer, you try not to think about it all the time because it'll bring you down. So I would say just to, think about it. And if you have kids, think about your kids, your loved ones, your spouse, your friends, and, try and spruce yourself up as much as you can. That was extremely hard for me. Most of the times I want to get off the couch or get out of the hospital bed. And
Yeah.
it was tough, but, just to keep an upbeat kind of attitude is truly huge for you caregivers who are number one. because they're the ones bringing the person back and forth from the hospital, or being, coming back and forth from the hospital if you're an inpatient. But, being that caregiver, it is a lot on their shoulders.
Yeah.
My wife we moved from Cleveland back to New England, and, we had friends that stayed in our house out here, and we gave them our house to live in because they lost their house in a fire. And, it said, God works in certain ways, and here we are,
Yep.
moving back into our same house that we had when I was playing there, and, it didn't sell. So it was one of those things where it was like kind of fell into place for us. But then also, meeting with the doctors and other things that kind of fell into place were truly amazing. But, it does happen. But caregivers, there's a lot on their shoulders. That's why,
Yeah.
you know, reach out to them. That's why the hospitals have social workers. That's why they're there. They are there to help, and they know the funds and foundations and groups that do help.
Yeah.
And that's where we're connected with. So for those caregivers to relieve a little bit of that burden on their shoulders.
It's great insight and advice, Joe. Joe, I've really enjoyed having you on the Wealth Architect podcast. And mindset is everything, and finding your purpose. And really, if you're tuning into this and you want to help the Joe Andruzzi Foundation by either volunteering or supporting financially, you can do so. Joe, can you tell us the website where they can find the events you have coming on, and or where they can donate?
Yes, everything's on the website, joeandruzzifoundation.org.
Awesome.
There is an events page. There we have gala coming up in November. We have road races, and we have a Boston Marathon team. We have third-party events, a multitude of things where you can get involved in, and and join on to the foundation. We have a couple different golf outings that we go out and lose a lot of golf balls. So if you're a business
Yeah.
and you want some free marketing, yeah, you got getting golf balls with your logo on there. Well, I'll do some marketing for you. Just get them stamped, and I'll give you some free marketing. But overall, there's many different ways to get involved, whether you're a runner or not, or just right on the front page is a big red donate button. And if you just want to donate, or you just want to get in touch with us, there's different ways of getting in touch with us. But it's a lot of information on the website.
Absolutely. What a beautiful organization. Again, it's the Joe Andruzzi Foundation.org. Mr. Joe Andruzzi, Chief Engagement Officer of the Joe Andruzzi Foundation. Joe, thank you so much for being here with us. God bless you and your family. And a shout out to your wife, Jen, too, for all that hard work and everything she did, and the inspiration that you and her and all of your volunteers, staff, support, and board bring to all the people in need. God bless you. Thank you. When you're considering buying a home or a condo or even an investment property, it's so important to hire the right home inspector. Specifically, if you're in Rhode Island, the home inspector that I always like to recommend is Mike Auger of Patriot Home Inspections, homeinspectorri.com. Why do I use Mike? Number one, he's not an alarmist. He's not going to scare you. He's going to walk you through everything you need to know about the house. You can follow him around like a puppy dog. Ask as many questions as you can. He'll tell you how the heating system works, how the electrical works, how the plumbing is, and he could save you thousands of dollars or even a future headache. If you are looking to sell a home, it's important to disclose as much information as you can ahead of time, and Mike Auger can put together a pre-list home inspection report, so when your realtor represents you and gives the buyer's agent the report, everything is disclosed that needs to get fixed, and the price is the price, and you sell your home like that. There's so many benefits to using the right home inspector. And again, Mike Auger with Patriot Home Inspectors, homeinspectorri.com. Check them out. So today on the Wealth Architect podcast, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood parts of real estate and wealth building, mortgages. And joining us is Matt Bates, Senior Loan Officer with Movement Mortgage, and a trusted resource for buyers navigating today's market. There's a lot of noise out there right now, especially on social media. I mean, people's opinions, the headlines, interest rates, the war, market fears, people fearing that they're overpaying, outdated advice that's keeping people stuck on the sidelines. But the reality is some of the biggest financial mistakes people make aren't because of a lack of intelligence, it's because they're making major decisions based on misinformation. Today, Matt and I are breaking down the biggest mortgage mistakes some people make, smart people make, from waiting too long to buy, to misconceptions about down payments, credit scores, monthly payments, and what actually matters when building long term wealth through real estate. Matt, welcome to the Wealth Architect.
Good to be here.
Great to have
Hello,
you, man.
everybody.
And Matt, we've been working together for over a decade, and we've helped hundreds of home buyers and sellers, through the journey of either selling and buying at the same time or, purchasing a property. And, the wealth creation that our clients have made over that time, you look back at somebody who purchased in 2020, 2021, when everybody was like, don't buy the house prices are soaring. It's a crazy market. Now they've added an additional 150K and 200K into their pockets in equity,
It's beautiful, is what it is.
Yeah.
And to be a part of somebody, so many families growing that wealth and having my small piece of that big pie that because I don't write all the loans. I wish I did, but I don't. It's still rewarding. It's a great thing because they bought in then.
Yeah.
They bought in, they understood, they understood like the reasons why, and maybe not fully, but they really wanted a home and they did it. And now they're like, thank God we did that. you
Right.
know? So
Right.
yeah, it's a great thing. I tell you what, I can't think of one person that failed doing it that I've helped.
Yeah. Same.
A lot of people have been uber successful, and that's great. I cannot put my, it doesn't even come to mind
No.
a slight example of someone that's actually had a nightmare of a time or like wish they never did it.
I've had clients that, either lost a job or went through a sickness or financial hardships, and then they've sold and no one took a loss though.
Right.
They've all walked away with something, whereas in previous markets, they probably would have taken a loss. So it brings us to our topic today. Like, what is what's the biggest misconception that you're seeing right now from buyers who are financially capable of purchasing a home but hesitant to move forward?
To your point about smart mistakes, biggest mistakes that smart people make when it comes to mortgages.
Yeah.
The smart people are doing their homework. They're cross-checking, they're cross-verifying, they're having multiple conversations with people that do the same job to see who's going to be their person. And a lot of times it doesn't come down to rate or closing costs at all. It comes down to the educational part of it and
Trust.
Trust and
Relationship.
who
right?
executes, who doesn't. We're in the pick your phone up business.
Yeah.
So if you don't pick up my call, then I need to call somebody else.
It's a great
And-
line. We're in the pick up your phone business.
Yeah, pick up your phone. That's or respond to me and let me know when you are willing to talk. I mean, that's what we do, and we need to do that very well. So, but the smart people, they're doing their homework.
Yeah.
And with AI and all the resources that are out there and opinions and social media and whatnot, they are learning about it through that
Yeah.
before they take that first step of talking to somebody that
Who's actually
might
qualified.
know a little bit more about
Yeah.
about the situation than they do. And I'm constantly, I'm okay with it. Check me every time on whatever resource, wherever you're doing your homework on. Check what I have to say, because if I'm not saying the right thing, I need one. I need to know about it. Two, I do not take my advice. But please check me on all that stuff. However, all those places that they're getting their information from, all those outlets, are not the ones that giving the money.
Right.
They're not the ones that are approving the loan. They're not securing funding. They're just educating, which is fine. I'm also an educator, but I also have the caveat of being able to secure financing
Right.
and the funding for them to be able to execute what their goal is.
So, Matt, a lot of people obsess about interest rates, but they oftentimes don't really look at the bigger financial picture. Can you explain why focusing only on the rate can sometimes cost people more in the long run?
Yeah, absolutely. So interest rate is important, but in fact, the folks that call that I talk to, that's their first question. That's an immediate signal to me that they don't know how to talk about their scenario.
Yeah, they're not educated.
Right, because I can't answer that question without knowing all the other really important details, and then I can get to that. But there's so many rate manipulations that are going on.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I want to use that word.
That's a perfect example, though.
Yeah, no, so you can't just focus on the lowest rate, because the lowest rate comes with it goes hand in hand with closing costs.
Yeah,
and there's small print, and there's maybe there's income restrictions to that interest rate, or there's mortgage insurance that comes with that is double what it normally is, and that's puts you at the same place as a higher rate with lower PMI. So there's so many different products out there, and there's so many different flavors of mortgages. And the best mortgage for me might not be the best mortgage for you.
Right.
And the best mortgage for you might not be the best mortgage for the next person.
Right.
And nobody's a perfect circle. We're all ovals. And it's which oval fits best in your situation. And that's what I'm here to help. Now, at the end of the day, I work, my boss is the client. I work for the client. They're the ones that are going to make the best, make their decision. My job is to make sure that they're as informed as possible about all the different options, so they can make an educated decision, versus being told what to do and then finding out later that there was something that a client could have considered had they had the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I don't like to take anything off the table. There's the low interest rates. There's first-time homebuyer loans. There's great rates with points, and it costs out of pocket. And just because you paid a point for a low interest rate doesn't mean that it makes sense for me. Every conversation is an individual one, and take the time to have those conversations. Is my advice. Not do one loan over another, or put a certain down payment down, or whatever. Getting into home ownership is beautiful, whether you put no money down or if you put 50% down. As long as you're getting into that opportunity to own a beautiful home and have that place for your family, then that's the ultimate goal. And another thing is interest rates. I have customers that have bought in the last 18 months and their interest rate started with a 7. Now I'm getting them into the low 6s, high 5s with a refinance, and they don't have any regrets at all buying their house. And that was when that's the highest rates that I've ever lent in my career. Because that home ownership is much higher on the priority sheet than any particular interest rate.
If they're renting, they're paying somebody else's mortgage.
That's the highest interest,
right? And you can always
that's interest only.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is. It's interest only with no write-offs, and it's like, man, you're not building wealth. You're not building long-term wealth. They say, I don't know what the exact number is right now, but the last time I checked, they said the average renter in the United States is worth $5,000 net worth, versus the average homeowner who's worth over $250,000 with net worth. That's a staggering difference. And in the United States, you could say, oh, there's so many people that, don't have wealth. The United States has a 63% homeowner ratio. Over the age of 18, 63% of adults, from what I understand with this statistic, own a home. And if the average homeowner is worth $250,000, guys, there's a lot of wealth to be made in real estate. Now, my question is this, Matt. With the advent of artificial intelligence, you got ChatGPT, you got Claude, you got Gemini, all these things, right? People are going to that, and they're starting their education process there, right? I guess, which isn't wrong. But do you find that when people call you, sometimes they feel that they know more than they do? And really, how much more would it help them to what benefits would they get if they surrounded themselves with a financial team? I'm talking a CPA, a mortgage lender, a real estate advisor, a wealth advisor. Like, what benefits do you think they could see through that ChatGPT or something can't?
I'm passionate about learning and teaching. So if AI can help with delivering the educational component and do that well, then please. But I encourage you. In fact, if you don't know anything at all, start there. Start there. because it does a very good job of breaking it down.
Sure.
It doesn't get fatigue. You know, you can just go relentless and just keep asking questions. And it's, in fact, recently I just closed on a good friend of mine's new home purchase, beautiful house, brand new construction. And he checked me on ChatGPT the entire time. Didn't tell me though.
Close friend, yeah.
And he didn't tell me because me and ChatGPT, I just got lucky enough to be right in sync with ChatGPT. So everything he checked me on turned out to be right, except for a couple of things when it came to, I think it was a PMI or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was a minor detail, minor mistake. But here's the deal is my advice to a customer is work with somebody that's willing to, I accepted the fact that I got that incorrect. I was actually thankful that I got checked on that.
Yeah.
Because now I can correct that because I'm constantly learning too. So my advice is when you pick your financial team, which you absolutely should, pick the team that's willing to learn with you, advise you, give you things to think about that ChatGPT isn't thinking about. Because ChatGPT only responds to the questions that you ask.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't know what to ask it,
true,
you're not going to get the answer.
It's a good point.
Through experience and through helping many first-time home buyers, I know what questions to ask for, what to put into ChatGPT. I'll get more out of ChatGPT than the consumer will because I know how to ask it the questions it needs to be asked in order to get a true picture on it. And so that's where I want to partner up with a client and be like, let's really use that AI tool to its potential. It's not going anywhere.
No, I think it's fantastic.
And when I use it all day long too.
Yeah.
When you pick your team, pick one that's willing to go through the experience with you, learn when they need to be taught, but at the same time, there's questions that that ChatGPT needs or AI needs to be asked that you just don't know yet. So ask the people that knows how to ask the right questions. Hire the people that know how to ask the right questions.
There, Matt, and all good points. And I love what you said about chat only answering back the prompt that you put in. And really, I think that's where the right advisor, the right team of advisors is going to help people out. And, if you have any questions for Matt is not only one of the top mortgage originators in the region, but he can help service all around the country, him and his team. But he also has an auxiliary network, and everything's all about having the right network of professionals around him that can help navigate you where you are in life right now and ultimately guide you to where you want to go. So therimortgageguy.com is where you can find out more about Matt and his team. Again, therimortgageguy.com. Matt Bates of Movement Mortgage. Matt, thanks for coming on with us today.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Great job, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Awesome. Great show today. I'd like to thank our special guest, Joe Andruzzi of the Joe Andruzzi Foundation. Go ahead and check that out. It is a wonderful foundation assisting people that are going through cancer and having a hard time making ends meet. So check that out at joeandruzzifoundation.org. And also a special thank you to Matt Bates of Movement Mortgage. I mean, once you work with this guy, you're not going to want to work with another mortgage originator. He knows his stuff. I've personally bought several homes through him, and he's worked with over 150 of my clients in the past. Just a great guy. therimortgageguy.com. Check him out. He's licensed in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Florida. And his team can help you anywhere around all 50 states. So great show today. God bless you. We'll be back here on the Wealth Architect podcast next week. I'm Emilio Despirito. Check us out. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you then.